Science isn't about why, it's about why not.
Get out of my personal space!
We are going to have the Air Force and we are going to have the Space Force.
Welcome to the Safety Doc Podcast with author, radio host, and nationally recognized safety expert, Dr. David Perrodin. Join us each week as we discuss the best and most bizarre practices in safety preparation and crisis response. Follow Dr. Perrodin on Twitter at SafetyPhD. And remember, the truth will keep you safe.
Oh, hey! Thanks for joining me for this episode of the Safety Doc Podcast. I am Dr. David Perrodin, recording down here from the North Star Recording Studio in southern Wisconsin. So another wonderful podcast today. This time we're going to be interviewing Bryan Bowden from the Bronx in New York City. But before we get to that, do me a favor, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. The show's also on Podbean and Apple Podcast. 128 episodes so far, each episode at least an hour long. In addition to that, I write a comprehensive blog post that goes along with every show. So if you want to learn more about school, community safety, a lot of interviews with people from Jennifer Fritton, Search and Rescue, to today, Bryan Bowden giving you the insight of somebody who has always lived in New York City, of what is authentically happening in New York City. Please subscribe to my channel. I've been doing more live streams to have several on deck for the show. I appreciate that the membership has increased. More people are following the show, more comments. I will respond. But please subscribe to the Safety Doc Podcast. A few other things is, hey, I'm the author of the book School of Errors, Rethinking School Safety in America. You can get this off Amazon, other places that sell books, right? It's hard copy, like $30. You can get it in Kindle for less. The first chapter, how thinking about a bagel can get you through the worst day of your life, and also transitioning into chaos. So a lot about self-similarity, how we get used to things, and then how things change and how we have to adjust to that. So really a terrific read right now, as we've all been operating kind of out in this new chaos zone and self-similarity, trying to figure out what it's like during this time of coronavirus. So again, School of Errors, consider that book on Amazon. So again, thank you so much for watching the show. Please hit subscribe. You can go back, check out other episodes. Today's guest is Bryan Bowden, again coming to us live from the Bronx in New York City, kind of the epicenter of the coronavirus in the United States. So Bryan was born and raised in New York City. He set on a path of an architectural engineer, but succumbed to the reality that business was his future, even though he had a love for the sciences. He's managed to squeeze in physics, astronomy while studying finance, graduated from university with a degree in international finance with a minor in emerging markets. He's used his talents to work with the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, World Bank, regarding solving third world debt issues. He's also worked with top-tier broker dealers. Bryan's the creator and producer, host of the critically acclaimed Beyond the Realm radio show. He's a published author, musician, and artist. He left a career in Wall Street to start a think tank and pursue business development on a global scale. Bryan is the co-host of Inside the Goblin Universe radio program with Ronald Murphy and host of Nobo Boo Me, Nobody But Me. He also has appeared several times on Dave Scott's Spaced Out Radio, and also has appeared in numerous newspaper articles, independent films, and a variety of top-tier podcasts. Bryan appeared in Red Earth Uncovered, a Canadian series that will air beginning in 2020. It will also appear on Into the Unknown, a new paranormal series on the Travel Channel in February of 2020. So yeah, checking out Bryan's work on international scope. He is the North American correspondent for the Outer Limits magazine. Bryan is working on a series of new books based on his paranormal experiences, investigations, and theories as well. A few children's books and short stories. He's currently developing new intellectual property for both television and the big screen, including scheduling, investigations, conferences, and events for the year ahead. So I met Bryan through the Mallard Report. Jim Mallard, the Mallard Report, which is every Tuesday night, MALLIAARD.com. Bryan is brilliant. He's a scientist. He's a skeptic. He looks at things from the scientific model. When the coronavirus, the media started to take off with the coronavirus, this is what's happening in New York City, this is what's happening across the country, I put together a network of face validity member checks. These are people who I believed would be able to authentically tell me what was happening out in their community versus what you hear on the news, making sure that those two things kind of match up, right? That you're getting authentic representation of what's happening. So Bryan and I communicated on almost a daily basis. We had Skype meetings and we'd go back and forth. What do you see, Bryan, when you're going out to the grocery store, if you're driving down the road, what do you see? And that was very helpful. So Bryan, and likewise, I was giving him back information of, here's what I'm experiencing in southern Wisconsin. Excuse me. Those same types of things, like when I go to the grocery store, if I drive past a park, here's people are recognizing their social distancing, right, and things like that. So that was very important because, again, Bryan is terrific with observation, and he's also terrific at understanding how these bigger systems work together. Like how does monetary systems work together during a coronavirus when the velocity of money is almost frozen, right? Like, people are saving their dollars, not spending them, and then those dollars get spent somewhere else. How does all of this look? How do these big concepts come together? So that was the catalyst for bringing Bryan on this episode of the Safety Doc podcast, which we're going to get into here in just a minute. But yeah, he's become a good friend, and this is also, it's a whole different perspective of looking at some macro level perspectives of what we've all experienced here in a relatively short amount of time. So everybody, thank you for watching the Safety Doc podcast, and you're going to enjoy Bryan Bowden. Hey everybody, this is the Safety Doc, Dr. David Bowden, live from down here in the North Star recording studio, where it is still a brisk 62 degrees, but folks, guess what? It was 74 degrees outside yesterday. Spring is officially here in southern Wisconsin. We continue to have amazing and crazy stuff happening with the coronavirus. On today's show, Bryan Bowden from the Bronx, from New York City, the epicenter. Bryan's going to talk to us about face validity. We're going to be talking about the tracing practices to find out where people have been and start talking about bigger things like social credit score and what are some things that are going to change. What are some issues with privacy that already have changed specific to the coronavirus event. Folks, welcome Bryan Bowden to the show. Bryan, thank you for being a guest on the Safety Doc podcast.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Well, tell us about you're an amazing guy. So I've talked about it here at the intro. I've known Bryan for a while. We've had conversations over Skype. We've been checking in with each other on a regular basis for something called face validity. But tell us about your work, your podcast, your book. You've got amazing stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for the kind words. A lot of what I do for myself. So, when I publish my books and they go out there or write music, I'm actually doing it for me, not necessarily for everybody. I think it's enjoyable content that I put out there, but it's something I've wanted to do, and it's kind of like those milestones. But I've been a business guy for a while. Was initially thinking about becoming a physicist,
right.
An astrophysicist, but and an architect. So I was tossed between the two. Problem is, when you regress the markets, there's no money to be made in any of that unless you're working as an evil genius someplace.
Sure. Like Drew, yes. Or,
yeah.
You got
exactly.
It.
So, I had a little business doing some design work and drafting for a lot of people between architects and designers. And I just went into business. So when in business, I started working for broker dealers. I have a degree in finance with a concentration in emerging markets. And that was, I was working for big broker dealers for about 20 years. And then after that, not like my contract, it was initially full employment. Then they went to like these independents because they were trying to save money.
Yeah.
And then, you
Right.
know, hey, we'll just save money. And they don't, they wound up not. But the long run is, I kind of like my contract was up. So, and then we were having a baby. So I got to stay home while my wife went to work. She's been in the printing business. They do screen printing and jerseys, you know, customized type of stuff. Her company went down, and then we started our own marketing / promotion company. So that's what I've been doing for a while. But on the other side of it, one of my hobbies and my interests, you know, besides astrophysics, you know, physics and some of that, I mean, I like a lot of that paranormal sci-fi stuff. I always was interested in it. And I've been investigating that stuff for a long time. I don't have a tinfoil hat, notice.
Right.
But, you know, the beauty of having a science-ish background is you can take in the full spectrum, and then you come up with a you know, what you think.
Right.
And from that point, a couple of years ago, I started a podcast, and then I hooked up with my co-host for the one of the shows I do called Inside the Goblin Universe, which is on Podbean. And we do our own show with Ron Murphy. He's a co-host. And then I started doing my own show because, frankly, I've had enough talk about UFOs and, you know, all the crazy stuff. And I want to talk to musicians. I want to talk to artists. I want to talk politics. I want to talk about, you know, so that's where I am. Yeah, I just put my banner behind me and my book, my new book. And, it's poetry. It's actually lyrics because I do music as well for my own. I've written a ton of stuff. And in a nutshell, this is what it is. I mean, I did, prior to going, I forgot to tell you this, this is where I did do a lot of work for the IMF and World Bank.
Yeah.
And one of my big projects, actually my main big project, was to come up with a way to solve the third world debt problem. And I remember having the meeting with all these people, and I said, well, are you serious about this, or is this just, you know, talk? And they kind of gave me this grin. Yeah, we're serious. Like, yeah, okay, I knew you weren't. But I came up with a solution to, you know, it's like, oh, okay. Like, it's like when someone gets your resume, like, you know, you're not right for the job, we'll keep it on file. And my response is, make sure you recycle, you know, whatever. So, but I did come up with a plan to help alleviate third world debt. It was a 50-year plan. It was actually genius. It stopped the payments immediately. And for about 25 to 30 years, it was total cooperation between non-third world nations and building industry. And then by year 20, they should have been flying at this point, and would have been able to pay off their debt, and you know, not a problem. A lot of what's been coming out lately that I'm hearing on how to resolve what we're going through financially, I think someone has my paper because it's like, oh yeah, I know about this. I mean, I think they may be using it as a benchmark, which I'd be very happy if they did. And it is a solution. So that's where I was. So that's who I am. Sorry for going a little bit too talky.
And Bryan, you are a New Yorker, right? I mean, you grew up in New York. That's your city.
Yeah, you can have it. I'm born and raised in New York City, or as that's now known as the Plagued Apple. You know, we number one. Yeah, we're number one. Yeah, it's an interesting place. It's not the New York I remember of old. There's a lot of nostalgia that people have for certain areas of New York, but it's not the same New York. It actually has more people here from that were not born and raised here than are born and raised here.
Okay.
And it makes it quite difficult because they have this preconceived idea from movies and entertainment. You have to act a certain way. Right. And contrary to popular opinion, New Yorkers actually are very polite. We're loud and abrasive, you know, like at certain points, hey, oh, you know, but we do have manners, you know. It's the other people that come in, think they have to up their game, that really aren't as polite as they could be. So, but it's too expensive here. I'm not really big on the politics that is prevalent here. It just doesn't work for anybody.
Right.
And if I'm just, not to get too political, but I'm neither a Republican or a Democrat. I'm really the middle, which would be a Jeffersonian liberal. And let me hear, when you hear the term liberal, it sends shivers up my spine. But if you look at the true definition, it's more like libertarian, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
So, you know, where it's like, look, we need a little bit of government, but in general, leave it the hell alone.
I'm kind of with that. You know, I'm a big Hobbes Leviathan guy, you know, with the social contract of saying,
right.
You know, we need something, but we don't need it or want it to be invasive and progressive. Right. Bryan, you know, we made, you know, connections right around, you know, maybe the middle of March. Okay.
Right.
And in a context for people out there, obviously, you know, middle of March, rapidly, the NCAA shuts down their basketball tournament. The NBA shuts down. Disney shuts down. I mean, all of a sudden states are telling people lockdown, stay at home, and then they soften the words safer at home and stuff like this. But basically, this rapid shutdown of everything, plus this acceleration of fear, right? Of saying,
oh yeah,
you know, if you're outside, you know, you could catch this, and projections of numbers. So what I did, and this is something you do, but you were somebody I connected with, is I built out my network for face validity. People that I could contact every, you know, couple days and say, Bryan, what do you authentically experience where you're at? When you go outside, what is actually happening? Because on the news, it sounds like it's people going through the streets, you know, fighting everybody for grocery stuff, you know, that there are, you know, morgues being set up in every park and this, and not to downplay that things aren't happening, but the amplitude of which things are happening, I think, needs to be calibrated through these member checks. So it's something called face validity.
Yeah.
And face validity is, and I think both of us would suggest this for everybody out there. People that you know, people that you trust in different parts of the country, talk to them, and don't say, what did you hear on the news at your local station? Say, when you went out today or yesterday, what did you actually see at the grocery store, past the hospital, the parks, the armory, things like that. So, but so face validity, we started to talk, and there were some really weird things with face validity that completely didn't match this narrative of shutting everything down, protective gear, you know, non-contact delivery methods. And one of those that I saw right away was I was watching our postal carrier. So our postal carrier comes down the road and walks up to every house, opens up the mailbox, and then puts the mail in. So it's not like, you know, mailbox out at the road. So I'm watching this. Mail carrier comes to our house, gets the mail, walks away, but nothing, like no gloves, no mask, no magic wand to go over and put radiation onto the postal package. I mean, nothing. And that was this morning. And today is March 8th. And so today is April. Nothing has changed. I saw the FedEx person deliver to my neighbor, threw up the back of the thing on the FedEx truck, rifled through many boxes with bare hands, shorts, you know, just the FedEx shirt on, no protective gear, take 3-4 boxes in his arms, put them up by a door. And I'm thinking, wow, we've been into this like 3 weeks now, and these are big systems which haven't changed their practice. So to me, those things really stand out. Other things that stood out, you know, watching the TV footage of, in Italy, hearse after hearse after hearse for burials. And I'm thinking, if this is as contagious as what they're saying, you know, even if I know when a body's dead, right, that it's not breathing and expelling, wouldn't you incinerate all of these bodies? Wouldn't you have this? Why would you take the risk of putting? So there's things that come together, and there's many more. But I'm going to ask you, you did face validity checks? You actually posted videos on YouTube, like 5-minute videos, which were awesome. Yeah. And tell me about face validity, when you started doing it in New York, what you saw, what made sense, what doesn't make sense.
Thank you for tuning in to the Safety Doc Podcast with the nation's leading safety expert, Dr. David Perrodin. Author, radio show host, university instructor, researcher, expert witness, and consultant. Powerful testimonials. Dr. Bowden has a strong reputation as the go-to safety consultant, and he was still able to exceed our expectations. When we went looking for an expert in the field of crisis preparedness and prevention, David was the single person we pursued. Not easy stepping into the touchier subjects of life, but Dr. David pulls it off. Take a listen. Now, back to Dr. David Bowden and the Safety Doc Podcast.
Yeah, when this first started, we really connected. It was very interesting. So this coronavirus 19th version of this virus, or form of it, is considered a class 2 virus, okay, on the scale of how contagious and how you react to it.
Right.
So SARS is like a class 3-4 virus. That means it's highly contagious, imminent problems and death. Like, and then you get the Ebola and whatever, which is class 4, which is like your body's melted internally and you're bleeding through your eyeballs.
Yeah.
So the problem I had here is, I knew about this a long time ago, well into 2019. I saw this taking place, and I actually made a post that said, thanking China for giving the United States probably one of the greatest gifts it will ever receive very shortly, which is the ability to do manufacturing back in this country.
Right.
Because of this virus. If this becomes, and I was thinking pandemics because it happens all the time, but China really, pardon the expression, screwed the pooch. Whether it was intentional or unintentional, I'm not going to go into just yet. But so I knew about the virus. I knew what it was. I have friends that work actually with the government in bio weapons type of analysis and threats and whatever. And I said, why is a class 2 virus being treated like a class 4 virus? I said, there's something else going on here.
Right.
So that being in the back of my mind, and some people say, oh, conspiracy theorists. Well, if you look at a lot of the conspiracy theories out there, they've been proven true. So it's not a theory. It's just when I do my research, no matter how crazy something is, I always keep that question. The hypothesis is there. Is this something more than that?
I agree. And I'm going to add, in the discussions we've had, you're an intellectual, scientific skepticist, which we all should be, as I am. Like that's
right.
We analyze it. And again, we're looking at authentic things and trying to match them to narratives. And so, yeah, I really appreciate, the diligence.
There's a lot of other thinking there. It's not just like, I'm taking it as, fact. It's just, we have a couple different categories taking place at once, and I got to keep looking, and as the evidence builds up, say, no, I'm going to push that to the side a little bit more until something else comes up. So with that being the consideration, I started to notice as well that New York got, you're all going home. Us in California, I think we're the first. Right? California, anytime they can do that, they'll do it. The problem I had here is there was a lot of started complaints that were taking place from our governor. He's going off on the president. Everybody's going off on him. How come he didn't do, we didn't have a problem here. And then I remembered, like, in 9/11, in under 6 hours, less than 6 hours, maybe even 3, the minute the planes hit and they knew it was a terrorist attack, this entire country shut down.
Yeah.
Okay. Like locked up.
Right.
That's 1. 2, New York, they shut the state down. You could not go really into, there were roadblocks, there was military. Getting in and out of New York City to like Jersey or whatever was quite difficult. So the overhyping of these political personnel out there on opposite sides of the party was like, this is too much, just shut the state down. Put the state troopers in front of the border and shut it down.
Right.
Which could have been done. That being said, it's like, okay, this is a serious thing. Let's take it a little more seriously. But I too noticed I was watching the face validity. I remember, people that worked at the bank were just taking money.
Right.
You know, I mean, and like no masks and no gloves, and that is the dirtiest substance in the planet. You know,
Yeah, no kidding.
So, yeah, I mean, like really dirty. You know, and then I think initially it was corporations saying, no, we don't want to scare our customers. Don't wear a mask. To which I would have replied, I don't want to drop dead, so I am wearing a mask. And if you really want to get to it, I mean, they could have said that. But again, class 2 virus, right? It's the flu. This is the flu with pneumonia.
Yes.
It's basically like SARS, but it's less than whatever with SARS. As they're both serious, but SARS is really, really powerful. And if you look at the average, it's like 60,000 for people that die with flu every year.
Right.
And then like, I think 50 or 60 with pneumonia. So if you add them up, it's 120,000 people a year in this country die from these two diseases.
Right.
So the numbers that we have right now, and don't get me wrong, I'm not diminishing it, but we're in line with if you had SARS and the flu. And I haven't seen too many people really having the flu this year. So, you know, there's other issues there. But getting back to face validity, the postal people weren't wearing anything.
No.
U.S. postal workers. My buddy, the people I know in this, I have a buddy that's a 30-year vet. He always wears these black gloves with like rubberized gloves.
Yeah.
And he started, because he was going to schools, he started wearing masks. And they used to give, I mean, they wrote him up to high heaven, you know, initially in this. He kind of got sick about 3 weeks back, which it sounded like this disease, but it was probably a touch of it.
Sure.
But he didn't test positive for it. But he went through a couple of rounds of antibiotics. His wife did too. But when he kind of like was working at his station in Westchester, one of the guys there tested positive. They closed the station now. Okay. And people are dying from this. I'm not diminishing the disease. People are dying.
Right.
Just heard yesterday from my good buddy that you know, his brother-in-law's, you know, one of his coworkers, 43 years old, dead.
Yeah.
Another friend of mine, his sister went in, wasn't feeling for 2 days, dead.
Right.
You know, so people are dying from this. Now, I don't know their history. I don't know where they were going, who they're hanging out with. You know, myself, my wife, my kids, we've been trying to stay indoors. We do venture out, and initially we weren't wearing masks, but now we are, just in case.
Yeah.
But people aren't. I saw the UPS guys not wearing anything. FedEx guys not wearing anything. Now, each one of these, between the Postal Service, FedEx, and UPS, they all handle their packages differently. So when you mentioned at one point, and I think it's pre-show, we were talking about the anthrax a bunch of years back, packages being sent. So when you start having a problem, you have to go through like the process of how we're going to combat that. And I believe the combating was high heat or microwaving, all mail-in packages coming through. You know, just heating up the outside of the boxes or inside to kill whatever's in there, if there is a powder or whatever. So in theory and practice, they should have had that in place. But we're talking about government when you talk about the post office. So I doubt they were going through that process.
Well, yeah. And Brian, here's another thing, you know, so the postal carrier comes up to our house, takes mail that I might have put out 5 minutes before that. Plus it's, you know, the metal cover. And then, you know, with their hands coming back, touching the steering wheel and you know, the other mail. So even if there was a process of decontaminating the mail, this person immediately has contaminated themselves. Yep. And we had up the road from us, one of our neighbors came back from a hot zone with the family. They notified us they had to be quarantined for 14 days, and members of families that they were with had tested positive for COVID-19, although didn't manifest severe symptoms. But nothing outside the home. Like there's no sign saying this is a quarantine home, so they could order a pizza, and the pizza place could come and knock on the door and deliver the pizza and be like, and yet, you know, I'm reading on the news last night, you know, there are some, you know, politicians who said people should have to wear, you know, a badge that says they have immunity.
That got me mad.
They've tested, you know, it's kind of, you know, we're thinking, you know, World War II Jews at some point, you know, this philosophy. And I'm thinking, holy Christ. I mean, this is so face validity. And recently what I've also seen is like the park down from us where our kids go. It's all roped off in yellow tape, like a crime scene. And there's a sign, and and they've taken down the basketball hoops. They've unscrewed those. Walmart, now you can only go in one entrance, and they limit the people in. And now, as of yesterday, they assigned someone to clean the cart. So they actually did a really thorough job. But I get this thing; it's like been out in a rainstorm. It feels like, because everything is still like disinfected, and I've got my own processes. But as we as we talk about the face validity thing, the postal, that part, I have a hard time trying to make sense of that, because by now I would think that organization, or even locally, they'd say, put gloves on or wipe stuff down, or like, so this doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me also that on all of the schools around here, they started to scramble to give lunches to kids, because a lot of kids, that was the only meal not the only meal, but they received their lunch or breakfast at school. But they still have it on the news. Like at night, one parent comes out, or volunteer or whatever, with gloves, reaches inside the car, gives the bag and all of that stuff, goes back, grabs another bag, waits for the next car. And I'm like, the gloves aren't being changed here, and you're entering the car, and this person really doesn't have any protective gear. So how this fatiguing, and I understand this is all fast, but there is this weird rollout of this narrative. And those are just some of the things that I'm seeing that really have me question if this was a
great pandemic. They would
a great pandemic.
Right?
Pandemic. We would all be shut down. All of these people would have these directives, especially the government agencies. And even if you didn't change your gloves, if you're postal, you'd have gloves, right? I mean, how the hell does that not happen?
Here's the thing. So like any government agency, even in the military, they do this. A lot of these employees have to buy their own products. So, and a lot of people don't have that kind of money to spend on gloves and whatever, or, they get complacent and lazy in their process, and they forget. Until you really experience something horrifying, or something, where you need to remember when you should be remembering automatically, that's what takes place. So with the post office, we have different people now in my apartment building coming in to do the mail. And one person the other day was wearing a mask and gloves. The day before that, or 2 days before that, it seems that they're putting gloves on more often. But here's the thing, so they put the gloves on, they're playing around with the mail, right? They're carrying the gloves, they put their coat back on, so now their gloves went through their coat, okay? You know what I'm saying, right?
Right.
And now everything's freaking contaminated.
Yes.
But here's also another problem. This is a very big component of this problem, is that the stuff that we would need to combat this virus properly, like Lysol, which kills it immediately. It really does kill this virus immediately, COVID. It's not around anymore. So, I mean, you would literally want to, if I was working as an employee for the Postal Service, I'd want to have a can of Lysol with me 24/7 and literally spray me down. And I know it's a poison, but I'll tell you what, I use permethrin, which when I go into the woods on investigations, because I don't want to get bit by a tick.
Right.
Okay. It's really bad. I mean, it kills cats instantaneously for the most part. And it's supposed to kill ticks. And it's poison. And I've literally put it on my bare skin at certain points. They actually use it for scurvy, but that's a different stuff.
Sure.
So, and my buddy's like, and I'm putting like 99% DEET or 100% DEET on. And he's like, dude, that's so bad for you. And I'm like, you know what? A tick bite actually is worse for me or anybody than a DEET for an hour or two.
Right.
You know what? Eventually we're all going to die.
Yes.
And if it's so be it, the DEET, as long as I didn't get Lyme disease, which is really bad, I'm all right with it. That type of thing. Sorry about that. I'm using a handheld type of thing to hold my camera because I'm in weird places. I'm just trying to get, out of the way of my family duties right now.
Yeah, no.
But, going back to the process of handling what should be done in the post office, now that more and more post employees are succumbing to this virus or testing positive,
Yes.
because now we have more tests. So now there's being quarantines in these areas. Now people are really taking it a little more seriously. They're wearing a mask. Some of them have gloves. But, you know, when you're going through your process and you just don't remember and you just touching your face and, you know, like you just saw me. I mean, I coughed. I have a smoker's cough. You know, I smoked, which I wanted to stop. But long before this happened. But, you know, you just don't remember. I normally actually, if you see me coughing, I'll go into my shirt.
Okay.
I don't go into my armpit. I go into my shirt to get it away from everybody, really covering it up. I'm a lot more considerate than most people are these days. And they're now taking a little bit more precautions. I can't attest to how FedEx handles their packaging, because they may actually, the reason why the FedEx guy may be throwing stuff around is because they're actually cleansing it somehow.
Sure.
High UV lighting, put it on a conveyor belt, right? Goes through high UV lighting. It's probably being scanned anyhow before getting on their planes and their,
Sure.
you know, whatever. So they may be doing a lot more for it. UPS, probably not so much. I think, you know, I don't know why people wouldn't care. I mean, the rumor has it that the virus could last for like 72 hours, someone said, or 48, I don't know those numbers on the packaging.
Right.
I used to order a lot of stuff from China through an app on my phone, which is Geek, and great pricing, great products. And I get these bricks that come in, and they were like these little squares or semi-big squares in that yellow tape. It looked like I was buying like a kilo of China white, you know? I'm like, what am I buying here? You know, but you know, you get all the same stuff you're buying on Amazon, you get pennies on the dollar, so you buy through them. And it's great, you know. I've cut that off because anything that comes in now, I've been doing this for months already. I'm spraying down. I used to spray it with Lysol, but Lysol is not plentiful. I'm still trying to find some. Yeah. So we do a bleach water, you know, mix, and we're spraying everything. And I'm like, by the time this is over, we're all gonna have really bad haircuts.
Yes.
And bleached clothing. There's gonna be spots everywhere. Right. It's gonna be like, so you know, we're just gonna come out of this misery. Like, what the hell happened to this guy? You know, I did my own hair recently. My kids were like, "My God, Dad's shaving his head." I'm like, "No, just the sides a little bit."
I got a haircut on March 12th, and I think it was like the day before they shut things down. So I'm still hanging in there, but yeah, at some point,
it's good.
It's getting.
Well, you know, I have the clippers here I use for the beard, you know, to line it out. And I figured, you know, if it goes, this is the time that if you ever wanted to like shave your head, you know, I kind of look like John Candy in Stripes if I shave my head. You know what I'm saying? You know,
it's like zipping in and out of Wisconsin. Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
It's Czechoslovakia. We're going to go out. It's not like it's Wisconsin. So, you know, there's certain things you can do. You know, Ron and I are going to be doing a show later on the day you and I recorded this, because, you know, for a long time, it's very stressful, this whole situation. You know, we're going through this face validity. Like, why aren't the police using? I don't see police. We had that problem initially, but there was very few police officers around. But they're suffering in droves from quarantine and people getting this virus. Yeah. And, you know, part of that is the cops use gloves, but they don't put masks on.
Right.
You know, so, and then I've seen a couple recently that have some kind of protective gear on. I have, you know, it's very quiet for New York City. Normally, I'm near a roadway where there's a lot of traffic, always jammed up. It's unnervingly quiet. It's 9/11 quiet.
Okay.
And
well, you had the leaf blower guys, right? Didn't you went outside and that was kind of some normalcy for you, right?
You can hear the leaf. You hear this. You're like, what the hell's going? You know, and you're thinking maybe it's a drone or whatever. Like, no, it's. And I'm looking outside, and they're the guys that are from Ecuador or whatever, you know, Latin America, that work for these people that do the lawns. And they're leaf blowing, and my wife is like, "Oh, that's so annoying. You know, they should be inside. We're supposed to be home." And I'm like, "It's kind of refreshing. It kind of seems like there's a little bit of normalcy coming back, because you're hearing that noise. They're out there, but technically they are social distancing. They're individually doing something elsewhere. You know,
right?
The leaf blower is blowing leaves. The one guy's, you know, scooping them up, and it's it's good. I mean, I kind of like certain things I start hearing, when I'm hearing a lot more traffic now than I ever did before.
Right.
And it does pick up, but I can't tell you if we're on the road back to that. It's still unnervingly low.
And you were saying, Bryan, also,
Mhm.
when you went out to stores, people now are very attentive to social distancing. So if they see you, they're like, okay, I'm getting my 6 feet away. Not that they're mean or anything like that, but it's immediately this, I'm 6 feet away from you, and not really making a lot of contact because I don't want to start a conversation that might bring us, closer together.
So one of my lovely gifts and abilities that gets me in a lot of trouble, but also a lot of laughs, is I could probably make fun of any situation at any time. I could crack a joke at a funeral and not have a problem with it, And I see the comedic side of everything.
Yeah.
And when we were walking, we'd go out for walks initially to the local near the park. We'd see the people in the park. There'd be people in the playgrounds, idiots. People playing on the basketball court, idiots. And we would just be walking around the neighborhood, just give the kids exercise. They don't normally get it. They're lazy. It's just, kids are just freaking lazy today. So what I notice is as like if I'm on the right side and I'm walking, or if someone's on the right side and I move to the right side to walk, you can see the terror in their faces. Some people, they freak out, and then they kind of they either just stop in their tracks like a deer on a highway, or they quickly move to the other side of the street and they jerk. And I'm like, it looked like a giant Talking Heads video,
Yeah.
Like, how did I get here? And I'm like, it's like a giant Talking Heads video. And I at one point I put on music and I put on the Talking Heads. I'm like, this is perfect. I'm witnessing this. So you're seeing a bunch of people that are just really working to stay the hell away from everybody. And then we came across a guy in my building who's probably 10 years my senior. Okay, 10 to 12 years my senior. I've known his wife because we grew up in the building together. And I said, hey, how are you? We kind of struck up. He was so eager for that interaction.
Yeah.
It's like a thirst. It's like being in the desert. And he wanted so much more of it. And I wanted to kind of keep moving. And he's kind of getting closer. And not that I'm concerned. I don't think he is. He's older. He doesn't look sick. We just start talking, and he wanted to talk and talk and talk and talk. And, and eventually I want to keep moving. I want to keep these kids. I don't want my youngest sitting on a bench or
Right.
Don't touch anything.
Right.
Because you don't know who's spitting and who's doing stupid things.
Right.
But I noticed there are so many people that are so missing that intimacy of a conversation or, that human touch. It's like I got a lot of people. I think when this is all over and the social distancing, which I think will be there initially, I'm going to be hugging a lot of people, which is going to be weird because I'm not a standoffish person. I mean, I can be very, very warm, but I think, it's good to see you. That type of hug. It's like, God, it's really good to see you type of hug.
Yeah.
You miss those moments. It's like when you lose a parent or somebody really close and you can't get that hug from them anymore. You miss it. And if you got the opportunity now, which I think is a good byproduct of this, to realize how important it is to be nice to people and kinder. And I'm noticing it's being nicer to people and kinder, except for the people that are so scared about this situation that they, like the governor, I forgot who it was, a mayor of LA, just snitch them out. We'll pay you. And that is really a playbook. That's out of the Communist Manifesto playbook.
Yeah.
It's like, what kind of society is it that we're going to snitch on these people because they're there? I got to be brutally honest. It's going to be cold. I just want to say it before you. If these people are stupid enough to be playing basketball and hanging out that close and doing whatever, and they get the disease, they're going to die. And that means that there's less oxygen grabbing people in this planet. It's called natural selection, or for some of those people like it, the Darwin Award.
Right.
Because you know better, you should be doing the right thing, but I'm fine with them. If they're gonna die, they're gonna die. See ya. I'm good. Why are you so worried about it? Because frankly, the police aren't gonna break them up. They've got other things to deal with.
Right.
A must-read for parents, teachers, and taxpayers. Dr. David Perrodin has written the most honest book about the $3 billion school safety industrial complex. Attorney James Sibley proclaims, a brave demonstration of speaking truth to power. School of Errors rips the lid off the billion-dollar school safety industry. Using real-world examples of successful responses in desperate situations, David contrasts the expensive window dressings pitched to panicked parents with the inexpensive and effective approaches proven to actually work. Read this book before you let your school waste another precious dollar on meaningless safety theater. Buy the international bestseller School of Errors, Rethinking School Safety in America, now at Barnes & Noble or Amazon.
That's something too. So I started to observe different cities and counties putting up websites, and this was maybe March 22nd through 25th ish. Yeah,
Right.
I took little video snippets, online screen captures, but there were a few things there that caught my attention. And one was, who's making the decision from up above in the administrative ranks of saying to the tech people, put together this website. For example, Bellevue, Washington had a site where they had a Google map and you could actually zoom in on satellite to figure out who was, here's this large group. And then you drag that over into a area. So then it populates and says, here's where it was. You write a description and then you can upload photos. So all of this I'm looking at, and I talked to a couple tech friends. I'm like, how long would it take to build this? And they're like, it'd take a while to actually do this in the photo part. And there'd have to be some consideration of legal because now it's a gov site. And if you're submitting photos, and like, how do you know the photos are authentic? And so anyway, but I'm going through and saying, okay, but this is at the same time I'm looking at these websites. They don't have anything updated on where you can get supplies, anything, are they changing their garbage and recycling processes? All of these types of things that are pretty, as people are asking questions, they want to know, they're doing this. And kind of like, you're the same thing, Brian. I'm thinking they have depleted resources because people are self-quarantining, and even in government, wouldn't you want to allocate your resources to more timely important stuff? And are you really going to dispatch police to one of these areas? And the other thing, it kind of gets back to the Stasi mentality of have your neighbor report. And so are you basically now deputizing people in a sense of saying, go out with your cameras, your zoom lenses, your drones, get photos? And here's another thing I saw. I started to see YouTubers go around while they're, live channel, people are doing super chats and they're trying to find people and report them. So, but to me, like this heavy-handed approach of putting these websites together and putting a lot of resources when resources are strained, and then also, what would be your priority for allocating law enforcement? This would be really low. And is this forensic? Also, does this come back in 3 months when this is over and saying this was reported on this date? So maybe it's a warning you get, but then where does that warning stay? I'm just like, what the hell? And for the most part, Brian, most people were compliant. Like most people are doing what they need to do. This is like saying, if you're driving down the highway and you've got the camera in your car and someone passes you and they're speeding, take a picture of their license
and then report
plate and submit it. And we wouldn't do that. So this stuff really, I'm looking at this of saying, holy God, and this could be so manipulated.
This is dangerous.
This is dangerous. It could destroy somebody. And also then it's social shaming. What they're doing in Great Britain is they post this online. They post it, and then people are like, hey, we saw you posted on the news or on the website, and employers are coming out to people of saying, hey, you were at this park. Literally, someone was at a park watching a sunset, and they zoomed in on them, and they just underneath, they said, this is non-essential, and then people recognize the person, and they weren't near anybody. But again, this could be separation from employment, family shaming, social credit. So give me your take, because I'm like, what the hell is going on, and how fast and how sophisticated? We talk about, we can't get gloves on people. These systems are sophisticated.
Yeah, this is very Orwellian. This is very scary. Like I said before, it's out of the like Communist Manifesto. And you were first mentioning resources. It does take a lot of resources and technology. I mean, I'm a technology guy, to put websites together that are fairly sophisticated. But if you go on to a governmental level, they have this technology already in place. And I don't care what anybody says. I think it's illegal. And it's a violation of our constitutional rights.
I agree.
When you drive, you'll see the police cars with the license plate readers on them. You have them on police cars in the back, the two little boxes.
Yep.
You have them on traffic signs, and they're checking to see who's going where, and they're checking your license plate. Now, last I checked, you're innocent until proven guilty, right? That's one. Two, you're not allowed to have any type of surveillance, because if you didn't commit a crime, there's no reason for you to do that. So what they're doing is literally criminal, in my opinion. I understand. I have a lot of police officer friends and family, okay? But you know, it's like they have no right to be doing that. So that being in place, they have the technology to use cameras to read your license plate and then get your information in a heartbeat, or whoever owns the car, basically. They also have in place, and they've been using it, and no one's mentioned this a while ago, but for the last about 2-3 years, I've heard a ton of stories of people being on planes. And before they get on the plane, on the jetway, they see police there with a German Shepherd, you know, some kind of dog.
Yes.
And before they get on a plane, they have to put this in and look in through a retina scanner before they're allowed on the plane.
Okay.
That's a violation of your rights right off the bat. But you know, when you're in a rush to get to a business meeting, you don't have a lawyer with you and you can't fight the case. You need to get on the plane to get to the meeting, right?
Right.
So you forgive your right, you know, you submit your rights to it, unless you're some people that'll say, well, the hell that, I'm not going, you know, and you explain to them why, but then you lose business. It's a whole economic thing.
Completely.
They've been using technology for the longest time, even in New York. London uses it all the time. Facial recognition. The government, no matter who you are, what side of the fence you're on, they want to know what you are doing, why you're doing it, what you're spending, everything about you, because they're abusing their power and privilege. And that's exactly what's taking place here with these websites. That's why, you know, when you said there's an expense in using some resources, they already have this. All they're doing is hooking it in and using a back end and fixing one applet of a program to do this.
And I'm glad you said that, because as I looked across these different sites in completely different areas of the country, from county to city, they were somewhat similar, right?
Yep.
The design wasn't that different. So I'm like, yeah, this isn't some organic project that they assigned to somebody.
This has been there.
You're right. And so give me your thought on this. So cell phone tracking, just tracking in general, you know, people right now. So anyway, I have two stories on this, and one is, you know, obviously the spring breakers who wouldn't get off the beach,
right.
and now we find out that their phones were tracked. But we already knew that Israel was tracking phones early in the COVID outbreak, right? That they were making it overt. They're telling people, we know where you're at all the time with your phone. But anyway, again, I was talking to somebody who was quarantined, and when they were quarantined, the county health person told them, we are going to trace the people that you were in contact with. And then this person who's quarantined said, well, do I have to give you something? And I said, no, we have all the information from your phone and your GPS and your vehicle and other things. So there was like no consent to give it. And it was just saying, you know, we're going to find out people that you were, I mean, so I'm looking. So let me tell you a little bit about school safety, right? So that's my kind of my big gig, school safety. About, I think it was 7-8 years ago in California, a couple districts participated in a pilot project where researchers went to parents and said, listen, we want to RFID track your kids. We want to know where they're at all times for school safety, right? Because if there's an active shooter or if they get lost, they wander away, student with autism, we know where they're at.
Yeah.
So, and most of the parents complied. Most were like, okay, the argument makes sense. And it was like a bracelet. It wasn't invasive, but and these kids wore it, and they were young, like kindergarten, first grade. And I started to, as I wrote more about school safety and I talked to more people, I'm pretty convinced, like if districts went to parents and said, listen, we want to chip your kids, we want to put a chip in them for school safety, right? Because then we always know where they're at. If there's a lockdown, we know where they're at. If they're injured, we can get resources that can cross-reference to a medical record, which, I mean, all this stuff they could argue, right? And just put out there. And it would sound really great. Like, yeah, that's awesome if my kid, and the thing is, most parents actually go for that. There isn't pushback. And I've worked with districts where I've been like, oh my God, like even having this discussion, like they are just going to rip people apart. And they're like, no, so it's this whole convincing people, right? This is for your good. So I was going through this phone argument, and let me know if you think I'm on it, but here's how I think you make the argument for people just with their phones of saying, listen, if you have a cell phone, it's now always going to be tracked, always, which it is anyway, but like, we're just going to overtly say it's tracked. And here's the reason. One is, we're going to let you know when you get near hot zones, if there's a flu or pandemic or something, which they do right now in Pittsburgh. Like my friend in Pittsburgh for the last couple of weeks gets on his phone a global information GIS map. As he gets closer to actual houses on blocks, it will say like, don't go here, like use a different route. Talk about invasive. But so people say like, here, government would say, we're going to keep you out of areas. The other part is, if we're going to let you know if you cross paths with somebody, you know, at a meeting, at a conference, at some venue, and if you need to get checked out. And the other part is, we're going to, if people have to be quarantined, we're going to monitor and make sure they're not leaving their house. So all of these things are external. You're like, yeah, like I mean, a lot of people, not me, but I mean, a lot of people though would be like, yeah, that's good. You're looking out for me. That person that's not following the rules, that they're going out in, 3 times a day. Yeah, they should be busted. So, but I'm like, so I can see the argument already forming. And then I was breaking it down further. And one of my friends, and this is when it really hit me, Brian, this is when it really hit me. So about a week ago, one of my friends who's a caver, so he explores caves and stuff like that. And he's going over his equipment. We're not talking about kind of this. And he just got this new heat gun. So he aims it down into a cave. Because I had a question. I'm like, how do you know how hot it is, or like what the oxygen levels? Because like, in a cave, he goes, oh shit, here's this device. Like it's like, $100, takes, AA batteries. He shoots it down into a cave, and it's like, here's the temperature, here's the oxygen level, here's the other stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay. So all a society would need is a small, tiny RFID number. If everybody had a number, all of this environmental stuff could be, and it probably could be everywhere. It could be as you walk in and out of stores, post office, as a drone flies overhead. All it would have to do is identify your number, and it could immediately say, here's your temperature, here's where you've been, here's all of this. And so you don't need this to be any more than a number. This doesn't have to be some transmitting computer. It doesn't have to ever be updated, because all of that will always be in the environment. And it's like what my friend was saying. He's like, oh, hell, Dave, yeah, I could tell your temperature from 300 yards away within whatever accuracy.
Thank you for tuning in to the Safety Doc Podcast with the nation's leading safety expert, Dr. David Perrodin. Author, radio show host, university instructor, researcher, expert witness, and consultant. Powerful testimonials. Dr. Perrodin has a strong reputation as the go-to safety consultant, and he was still able to exceed our expectations. When we went looking for an expert in the field of crisis preparedness and prevention, David was the single person we pursued. Not easy stepping into the touchier subjects of life, but Dr. David pulls it off. Take a listen. Now, back to Dr. David Perrodin and the Safety Doc Podcast.
And so,
by the way, they know you're coming to an airport when you're 2 miles away from it.
Oh my God. So tell me, I mean, you've studied this, you know about this, but I'm looking at this and saying right now, because the Patriot Act after 9/11, shifted the social contract. But the social contract right now is a government coming out in a couple months and putting together a revised Patriot Act, or even what they tell us or what they don't. But I think what I described would be, first of all, it's technically completely plausible and feasible, but it's also something where you could spin it and get most people on board and just silence the people who would, if you're a critic of it, why the hell are you critical of this? This saves lives. This could save your life or your family. That shuts people down pretty fast.
So here's the thing, right? So the concept of being able to do this to warn people and help them out is great. It's wonderful. And that'd be fantastic if we lived in Fantasyland.
Right.
As to quote, what's his name? Rodney Dangerfield in Back to School. What are we building in Fantasyland? Because, there's ulterior motives with all this information. Data is huge. So here's the thing. So like when you have the guy who's in Pittsburgh and he's driving by a house and they said it's a hotspot, how reliable is that information? What if those people were just people that the guy who controls the board doesn't like?
Right.
And he says, well, you know what? You always, you throw crap on my lawn, whatever. So now I'm going to make your place a hotspot. So there it is. It's out there. It's a hotspot. How do they know that when, someone who's doesn't exercise or whatever is running to get to some place, and all of a sudden, 1 minute they were at one spot and they got checked and they were 96.5. And by the time they got to the other spot, they were close to approaching a 99 point something because they were running, expending energy, whatever it is. See, there's too much, if you're weighing data, there's too much of the tails that are just don't work.
Right.
So it's not a reliable source. Everybody's being tracked by their cell phone. Even if you shut it off, it's being tracked. It's kind of like a Waze for humans, but you can't do that because in this country, we have something called the Constitution, and people can't be tracked because it's surveillance and it violates your constitutional rights.
Yeah.
And you know what? Believe it or not, that's bigger or better than actually tracking people. Government wants to track you. Government wants to go from cash to electronic transactions so they can get all the information so they get paid.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
They don't want you doing things on the side in private.
Right.
And everything that you see in government, no matter what side again on the fence you are, is to make sure they know what you're doing and say no, yes, or no. Who's the person that's being the parent here and telling me as a human being what I should and shouldn't like to do? It's kind of like someone put up a meme about, they used to give people who, I don't have any firearms because I live in New York City. It's kind of hard. If I don't live in New York City, I would definitely get them, and I love to go shooting and skeet and trap, but I don't have it, right?
Right.
So all these people, you don't need the gun. You don't need that many bullets, right? That's their methodology on everything. Why do you need so many bullets? Your gun can take 5 bullets and it's fine, because people they're not into that. That's not their thing. And someone put a meme of like, why do you need all that toilet paper?
Right.
You only need a couple of rolls, right? So it's
Right.
like, it's your choice. It's what you're into. And as long as you're not hurting or harming anybody, I don't care about the guy that has a collection of weapons down the street and ammo for him. And, it's a whole cache. He's a collector of those things. I know people collect guitars, and people collect wives.
Right.
There's a lot of really weird things out there. Why is it the government determining what you should and shouldn't be doing? It's not their job.
So
It's not their job. Their job is to make sure that you have the ability to exercise your freedoms and rights,
Right.
make your money, and then they get a little taste of it. But these people keep stepping over the lines. It's with the Patriot Act, which I can't stand that. It's not patriotic whatsoever.
Right.
It is an absolute, and I've got one of my best friends on the planet. He's like a brother to me. He works in that industry, and I complain about it because it's not patriotic. Spying on Americans is not patriotic. If you did your job properly and didn't let the damn people in the country, we wouldn't have this problem. So now we're paying for their mistakes again. When we bail out the banks, we're paying for their mistakes again.
Right.
Right. And in this situation, if you listen to some of the rumors, and it's true, the number one proponent for vaccinating people in this country is Bill Gates. He wants to vaccinate everybody.
Yeah.
Vaccines. Now listen, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. Okay. But what I don't think the small child should have MMR in one shot. I think it's way too much. My doctor was pissed, but we made them break it up. And they have to get more shots. You know what? So let it be. So instead of getting one shot, she's getting 6.
Right.
Or 2 shots, she's getting 6.
Right.
I think she could handle it. I have no doubt in my mind, and this is where it's crazy. This is what this guy was talking about. I forgot where it was. The head of the Fed in one of the areas, St. Louis, I think it was.
Okay.
They're going to put a chip in this vaccine. These vaccines are coming out, and they're going to come out fast. Never been tested, never been researched, none of that stuff.
Right.
Right? And they're going to have people lining up like they're giving out candy. They're going to put a digital something into this vaccine, whether you like it or not, and you've just submitted to being tracked and trailed, and that's how they get the social contract on again, like they did in China. So we are leaning more and more towards that communist, Marxist type of Orwellian society, and we don't have to. I'm not going to get, again, politically, but I do appreciate that the president, charged his team on this task force and the people around him. What do we have right now that will do something?
Right.
And they came up with something that I know people that are doctors, and they're saying it's working. And let me tell you, I posted something and said it was 100% effective, and I'm going to stand by that, because it's not curing everything, but if you are not on a ventilator, it's 100% effective. Because the minute you go on a ventilator, you go 50% odds of living.
And Bryan, the other part is, right? So we know thousands of physicians have written orders for themselves and their family for these medications. So when you look at that, there's a face validity there of saying, well, if they're doing this, why are they doing this? I mean, so I want to go back to government tracking. It's been very overt now with cell phones and things, and I do think it's just a matter of time, for chipping. I mean, it's just in some companies already do that. They offer it to employees, but where it's mandatory. But the other part of this is the selling of information. USPS, the Department of Motor Vehicles. So I talked with Trip Elix, who is a security analyst, and Trip just last night. Trip was saying, you can go and buy all of these data sets, and it'll break it down into like male, this age votes this, kids at home, this is a TV shows they like to watch, and all of this, and that so there's a part of this I'm thinking. This is all marketing, right? This is huge money that's coming between in this exchange of service between Facebook and Google and all of these other companies with the government then to collect this data. So maybe this is this whole part, because part of me is like, what is the government really, what is their incentive to know where I'm at, versus if that incentive is important to someone who can market to me, because if they know where I'm at, they can tailor ads and refine things to products and things like this, that they become much more efficient. And in turn, there's an exchange of money, whatever, with the government.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to go with this whole thing is, one of the things you forgot to talk about is the fact that they like to get you to release your rights over your life and give out vital information they don't have, more information than you should be sharing. It's 23andMe and Ancestry.com. Okay. Now, I find it appealing. I'd love to learn where my ancestry comes from and, whatever. Right. But long ago, I thought, like, well, if they have my DNA, right?
Right.
Everything about you and your history between your parents that created you, and their parents and their parents and their parents, right? So with this DNA, and again, there's good sides to it too, but it's never going to be used for good. What they're doing is they're selling all this information, and they're not just giving the fact that half your family came from Ireland. They know what cancers you're predisposed to.
Yes.
What diseases, what traits, what every X, Y, and Z that goes on with your life, right? So just imagine that you don't have cancer. whatsoever, right? But you go out and your insurance company buys it and says, "Oh no, you got to pay $1,000 more a month.
Exactly.
You're predisposed to cancer."
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, in all fairness, if you think about it, if you're predisposed to being that, you probably should, but it's not that you knew about it either. You weren't hiding anything,
right?
And it's none of their business, right? So this is where we get into that. It's a black and white area. It's not even gray.
It is, and we know that
shouldn't be done.
The data can't be. The data sets aren't protected, right? All the time we're notified, oh, your data was compromised off of whatever, and now, change your password or we'll send you $200. But what if we have, so what if through, the access of information of these genetic things, 23andMe and all of that, suddenly they find out that there is a genetic predisposition for the coronavirus, right? And so we have a second wave in fall. And just as this starts up, people get contacted and say, you're in quarantine. And while the rest of society is going in, suddenly you could have people in quarantines for months. I mean, it's not only that, it could be all these other things that suddenly, it spikes up and you get notified, or also it restricts your travel, right? Because you can't go this. The invasiveness. And Bryan, when I saw this stuff on TV, I'm like, oh man, like I'm not that interested in learning about where I originated from, but I'm like, I would not want to give this information willingly out to somebody in a database. There's no way in hell I would want to do that.
If they knew that you were predisposed to this and they said, look, from the months, whatever, if we're going to alert people who are predisposed and we're going to tell them to stay home, or take more protective measures. Maybe you go out with the gloves and the mask on or something like that. That would be great and helpful, right? Because not only are you protecting them, you're protecting the people around them, okay? But the bottom line is, unless that person's not going to get hammered by their job for not being in there, or there's, there's no benefit for them, they have to get up and work. We all have to get up and work. My business is done because I do promotional stuff, and no one's doing parties or printing stuff up. So, but this is a problem. So, there's a lot of good that can come from this, but good never comes from it. I'm sorry to say, it's not being cynical. It's a fact. They abuse this. They abuse this information. They sell it. They don't give a damn about you or whatever. There was someone put a meme of Nancy Pelosi goes, I got my check. I don't give a damn about yours. And it's the truth. And if you want to look at that bill that was passed for what it was, I forgot, was it $1 trillion? It was $1 trillion, another $1 trillion bill, whatever it was. There were people in that bill. I'm just giving you an example. So all these other things they put in there, they put this Green New Deal stuff in there about hiring people. Right. They put this stuff. And the bottom line, what was passed was, in one of the things, there were certain instances that were getting, call comes in. I got to go grab. There was a certain times in there where the Kennedy Art Center, right? They were having a problem because, no one's going there, whatever. So they wanted $50 million to give them. The Kennedy Art Center, we have a pandemic out here, people that are all unemployed, that 10 million people on unemployment, and you want to give $50 million to the Kennedy Art Center? Right. That's stupid to begin with. But what happened was they didn't give them 50, they gave them 25 million. Right? And that was supposed to cover the expenses for their musicians. Operating. Yeah. They immediately fired everybody. And they turned around and gave $5 million donations to the DNC. Wow. And if you're following me here, you know what that's called? It's called money laundering. Yeah. The Democrats money laundered money, took it from the American people on this point, and money laundered it back to themselves to their war chest. Yeah. And that's as political as I'm going to get. Just think about this concept. And if the Democrats did it, if the Republicans, it's money laundering. And it has no bearing on your safety or my safety or our health and well-being. What should have been in that bill was, we're giving XYZ to hospitals, to the military, to everybody, no matter what your payment is. Everybody gets a $1,200 check. Everybody. Nope. Didn't happen that way. All the senators and congressmen got like a $40,000 increase in their payment, their salary. Are you kidding me? And going back to one more thing that's very important when you talk about government getting involved in things, okay? After I was in Canada when the Katrina thing happened in Louisiana, and I was embarrassed by our government how they handled it. Okay, and then they come around years later because they basically kill people, they let them die. No matter what side of the tracks are, or how much money or whatever, that was disgusting. We're America. We shouldn't be doing this. We should have had like everybody in there, getting them out, and
Right.
you know.
Right.
Fast forward, what they call Obamacare, the Healthcare Act, right? Everybody wants healthcare. We need healthcare, right? They want the socialized medicine, which is killing everybody in Europe right now because of socialized medicine.
Right.
But the first law passed that these people, these lawmakers passed, that we put in office, be it Republican or Democrat, and I think it was unanimous, was we're exempt from this.
Okay.
What does that tell you
Yeah.
as a citizen? They're exempt from this, but you have to do it.
Right.
When it should have been, we're going to be the first ones to have it, and then you'll get it.
Right.
That's what needs to happen. As long as these people that are making the laws are first and foremost bound by those laws, and until that happens, I'm not giving any of my rights up, and I'm not getting the vaccine. And you know what? I don't know what's going to become of it at that point, but no, I'm not putting my hands in that.
Let's so what becomes of it. So let's move kind of into the last segment, because I think this is a great lead in. So China has had a social credit score for a year. Japan has had a social credit score largely for a year. It's through their biggest social media app, which is called Line. But anyway, so a social credit score, just for people listening, how this works in China is the most you can have is 1,000. So it's kind of like a credit score. But if I have 1,000, that means, I'm not a criminal. I'm helping elderly people. I'm doing a lot of things to add value per whatever the subjective authority is identifying that. And then I get additional rights, like I get, privileged transportation, more access to government programs and things like, basically you get moved to the front of the line. And then if you get below that, you start to lose things. And then also there's a weird twist in that. So if I have a relative who is, run-ins with the law, isn't paying taxes or things like that, and I have to overtly disassociate with that person to keep my score high. So there's all these weird controlling mechanisms that came into place in 2019. And so I think we are racing toward this right now, especially with, one of the things right away, Bryan, it wouldn't be hard to say in these communities where they have the websites, you can report people, if you do this will give you some social credit score, or, some points of you've done something to help out the cause. So I'm looking at this and saying, what's your perception on where we are right now as maybe America, Western society moving toward a social credit score, what the coronavirus does to accelerate that, what we should be looking for, how that's going to impact us? Because I'm like, shit, this is, to me, this, again, and it gets to be something you can sell to people, because you can say, listen, we're protecting you because this is going to impact the people who aren't following the rules. It's going to be coercive, and people don't realize, no, it's going to impact all of us, right?
It's pretty scary. It's actually, when you can't compare China to Japan, because there's certain in Japan, there's a lot of honor to doing the right thing.
Absolutely.
Like for the example, when Fukushima took place, right?
Yes.
What happened was a lot of the older citizens of Japan, volunteered to go into the reactors and put it out at the fire, because they've lived their life.
Yeah.
And they said the young people need to get, they sacrifice themselves for the younger generation.
Right.
And that's the type of society we're talking about. It's very stringent. We have a large Japanese community near me in Fort Lee, New York. And the whole honor society type of stuff, when you're not doing something that's honorable, and the shaming of that is it's been in their society since the beginning, I believe.
Okay.
We have a lot of the people that jump off the George Washington Bridge are Japanese.
Okay.
And there's a lot of suicides on that bridge.
Yeah.
One of them that was very interesting is a young Japanese kid went up to the bridge, and he stood there. And I mean, I wouldn't jump off a bridge, but he jumped off the bridge. He lived. And
Okay.
one of the paramedics, one of the guys that picked him up, EMS, in my building, he brought him over to Columbia Hospital, which is right next to the bridge. They had him there. He lived. They released him 7 days later. He walked, as soon as he came out of the hospital, he walked right back to the bridge and jumped again. So that's a huge honor thing. It's more shameful than anything.
Gotcha.
So having a social credit, and they're very much into the electronics, and it's part of their society anyhow, in many ways,
Okay.
because of the honor code, you know, whether you're really honorable or you're, you know, so. And then there's also honor among thieves. When you get into China, totally different ballgame. You're talking about a government that doesn't care about their people. They don't care. It's like a very union type of thing where you want to be on top of the totem pole. The higher you are to the top in that power bracket, like the head of the country, the head of different provinces and whatever, the more power you have and the more of the elite you are. The soldier is more important than the citizen. I mean, we're talking about a nation that violates human rights 24/7. They sell body parts.
Right.
And they lie about everything, and they keep things deceived. And I'll still stand by it. They are number one with this COVID, because we talk about social credit scores. Everybody in China needs their cell phone. There's no ands, ifs, and buts about it. They check it all the time, their health and whatever, and that's your lifeblood. That's the equivalent of keys, money, and everything.
Right.
Eating, whatever. You go out without your phone, you're dead.
Right.
Okay? So at that point, why would 21 million cell phone users just go offline, be disconnected, right? Why would 840,000 home phones be disconnected?
Right.
If that's your lifeline, why? Because they're dead. They're either in prison or they're dead. That's two, right? And then there's a couple of satellites have been by, and they still look like mass graves on fire, whatever. So China is a totally different animal, but this whole idea and concept of the fact that you are going to be bound by some political party's notion or some individual's notion of what they think is right and wrong, and what you should be doing for society versus not society, whether you get your food or be able to shop that day or not. I think it's sick. I mean, I think we are moving kind of towards that. And they recently just did something with the Patriot Act, reauthorizing some things. And from what I understand, there's new stuff in there. They're pushing us to those types of products, that social credit score, that snitching on your people, and people get rewarded for it. They're going to keep doing it because they don't know better.
Right.
But what they're giving up is so important. It's beyond belief. We see this in society, those people that have to have a YouTube channel. They need that 15 minutes of fame. Well, after your 15 minutes of up, what are you going to do with the next 46 years of your time? Because no one, you know,
Right.
They don't realize it. None of these people that are under 40, let's say, or whatever, or 30, 35, they don't know what the struggle is like. I see them protesting, and they're joining in these groups like Antifa and whatever, and like, you know, we need to do this and whatever. They wouldn't fight the big war. They would not be hitting the beaches at Normandy.
No.
They'd be like, I'm not going out there. And you know what? What would happen at that point is they'd be all shot dead, because they don't realize what the struggle is to keep what you have here. You have here because people fight for the Constitution and your rights.
Right.
And you have the ability to say, no, I'm not going to tell you. And you're innocent until proven guilty. So we're getting into this gray area. And you're right. Like, the Patriot Act was passed, and Chuck Schumer, who's in New York, who's a problem for everybody, he admitted like a couple of years ago he never read it. He just signed it.
Right.
Are you kidding me? You're
Right.
a lawyer. I would never have signed that act, because it violated every right we have. We could have generated enough energy off the spinning bodies of our founding fathers at that point to power the country for a millennia. So here's the problem, right? Yes, we have a virus out there. I personally think that if you take into consideration the pharmaceutical cocktail that they came up with, which I'm getting information from doctors that I know and other doctors online, it works to clear the lungs and not have you come on a respirator, which means your body's fighting off the virus, which means you're going to be good. I think we'll be fine. With any medicine, so there's going to be pluses and minuses of people that react differently to it. It's a given, but I think all in all, this is the magic wand you wanted, okay? But there are powers that be within our society that don't want this. They want to vaccinate you so they can tag and bag you, whether you know it or not. And it's a little conspiracy, but I think that's the way we're going to go with it. They put RFIDs in money. They put it in your phone. It's in clothing. I mean, Walmart's the biggest RFID, I think, producer or user in the globe.
Right.
You know, everything they know in Walmart, when a box comes in, it already adds to their inventory. They don't even have to go around and scan it.
Yeah.
Because everything has an RFID chip in it, and it's so small, you wouldn't even realize it. But I mean, I chipped my dog at one point, you know, when I had the dog.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to make sure he was okay. But would I chip my children? Maybe I would, just because, you know, to keep an eye on them for me. And I created an app that would track your kids, so you could you can literally go to a map, and your kids would have a chip either in them or on them, right?
Right.
And then you'd draw the boundary yourself, and once they got to that boundary, like the playground, it beep, 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 and it'd alert them you're getting too close to where you shouldn't be.
Right.
So you can keep an eye on them. It was tracking for parents because, you know, first-time parent, you do everything. Like, oh my God, I need this and I need that. Second-time parent is like, he's eating off the floor again. It's okay.
Right.
You know? So I understand that's the good side of it. And for me to track my child, I don't want the government tracking my child.
Right.
In New York State already, whether you sign it off on it or not, they take your kid's DNA.
Wow.
They have a huge database of DNA for every child born. It's been like this for like decades. Why? You have no right to my child's DNA.
Right.
Why?
Right. It's the why. And you know, we step it back and all of a sudden, is there some, you know, genetic, you know, marker that leads to a susceptibility, but whether that be the flu or whatever. But as you indicated, you could massively interfere, and not only interfere but destroy people's lives. You could shut them down for 3 months of the year, and their employer could be like, well, I can't have you do this job when you're quarantined now, and
now you're starved, now you're out of work, now you're beholden to the government for cheese and milk and whatever. So now you're going to do whatever you want, you know, to get that stuff back to you, right? Here's the cool part, right? So we're having this conversation right now. We've had conversations before. This is electronically
right.
There's a signature to this, okay?
Right.
Here it is, right? So they know, and everybody probably knows because they have to use face recognition, whatever. If you hit a nerve, if you say something that goes against something that's monetary, like big time monetary, or it's against the norm of what society is, or political parties, they could screw us left and right now. They could say, we're going to give you an audit, or we're going to interrupt your internet stream. I mean, the other day, one of the shows I watch on YouTube is London Real. I don't know if you've seen this, but London Real interviewed David Icke for like 4 hours. Now, Ike's really weird. I'm not 100% behind Ike. He does have some things that are pretty interesting. And they got it pulled down from YouTube. It had like one of the highest streams ever. I'm sorry about that. That's an ambulance going by on the highway near me.
Sure.
So it got one of the highest streams ever. It was second number in the country at the time. They pulled it down, violated community guidelines, because David Icke was talking about how 5G could be contributing to the virus, whatever. And he's very controversial, and he doesn't, you know. And then he also gets into reptilians. This is where David goes, you had me at that point. The point is, this guy that runs it, Bryan, London Real, he brings a lot of these things to there. He talks about ayahuasca and different type of things to think about it differently,
right? Which
we should be expanding our horizons and our vibration, raising it into like, you don't have to go to church to pray to God. God is everywhere.
Sure.
If you're a God believer, I am. So that goes against the control factor of the church. Oh, no. You have to come and do confession. No, I don't. I can confess to God, and I'll go directly to the source.
Right.
So he was talking about all these things. People contacted, I guess the 5G people were upset by it. They contacted the powers that be, and they pulled it down.
Right.
Right. So they just censored him. He didn't do anything wrong, but because it goes against the 5G that's being put up everywhere, that technically, if you really overclock it, it becomes a weapon where they can target you individually. You know, you talk about tracking, right? So if your cell phone, I know your cell phone, you're doing something that's against the government, I can go, and if I have 5G on your street lamps as well as the towers, and I overclock it, I could literally target you as a signal. That's why it's so good. So no matter where you go, you're going to get a great signal even indoors.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can send so much signal and power to your phone. I can overheat your battery. Okay, you ever see one of these batteries in the cell phones blow up?
Yeah.
It's not a
that
joke.
Happen actually. Yeah.
Okay, so you know that, and it could be worse. Imagine that 10 times, boom. And where do you keep your cell phone? In your pocket, your heart, right? You send a piece of cell phone into your body, cut an artery, you're dead. You can be targeted with these things. That's why you don't want them to track you.
You know, and one of the things, Bryan, I mean, people I know have said they've had live streams in the last 2 weeks, live streams interrupted, taken down, and not like just because of connection, then something pops up and saying you violated community, whatever. And these, you know, are pretty. These are live streams that a month or 2 months ago nobody paid attention to. You know, and so I authentically am finding that, and then you know, as another thing you indicated, you know, we just talked about cell phones, and I forgot about this, but it would be pretty again, it would be easy to say, if you're not following the community rules, right? We can shut down your cell phone. For example, if you're going out to the beach or you're going out to a park that you shouldn't be, or whatever the hell it is, it comes up.
Turn you off.
We're going to turn you off, and you'll have access to 911 in the last 5 minutes of every hour for the next 2 days. Well, a lot of people, they're so addicted to social media and just their phone that you know, you get a high level of compliance, I think. But I had something written down I wanted to get to. So we talked about you know, coronavirus, right? Coronavirus deaths. And Dr. Birx and the White House, they've been really open with saying if somebody dies and has comorbid conditions,
right?
And comorbid, so, you know, you could have diabetes, you could have dementia, you could have COPD, other things. But if you also have coronavirus, you are now classified as dying of coronavirus. That's your death. So right now, again, it's been, you know, the public databases on reporting of heart attacks and things like that have plummeted, right? People aren't having heart attacks at the rate that they used to, of course, because now the primary cause of death is identified as coronavirus. But so I had a friend of mine who studies this. He's in the legal side, and he said, you know, obviously this is happening. All of the stuff that's comorbid is just being thrown out the window. So also your data sets that you would use to track, you know, heart attacks, diabetes, strokes, things like that are all going to be basically useless for this year because they've been corrupted. But
yes, 100%.
Well, what's your thought on this fact of there's absolutely no comorbid, so comorbid is if you have multiple conditions going on. So you could literally be, you know, in hospice, you know, terminal cancer, and you then also contract coronavirus, and that would be your cause of death. There would be no mention that you are also an end stage, you know, cancer or something like that. So I'm looking at this, so the numbers, if you just solely look at it that way, would be significantly higher. But that to me is alarming because I've been hearing that from people. I also heard it from someone who lost a family member died in his early 60s, but had they were told it was coronavirus. They weren't able to see him once he was hospitalized. And this happened just in the last 3-4 days. But they also said, you know, there were other things going on, like, right, he had COPD and you know, whatever, and they expected that at some point within the not too distant future, these things would cause him to die. But give me your take on this, because I'm very concerned. I'm very alarmed by that, because you can inflate numbers. I mean, there's a meme out there where there's a skydiver and he doesn't have a parachute on, and it says, he died of COVID, when he hit the ground.
Yeah.
So
This is the problem. What I'm hearing from people that work in hospitals is that no matter what it is, it's COVID.
yeah,
I'm hearing from people in the UK. Someone went in, and they were there for. Here's the difference between socialized medicine and what we have in the United States, which is pre-socialized medicine. It's better. In the UK, there have doctors now who signed Hippocratic oath to save lives, right, are going around, no matter how old you are, if you're a senior of a certain age and up, like 60 and up, they want you to sign DNRs.
yeah. Do not
not
resuscitate.
resuscitate.
You bet.
So they went into one person's room, and they were there for like some kind of orthopedic thing, like very minor, like whatever. They were doing something, and they wanted the woman to sign a DNR. So they, well, I don't need a DNR. I'm doing an orthopedic thing. And they kept pressing her and pressing her for over an hour. And she didn't sign it, of course. But this is it takes, when people do this and they know it's coronavirus versus a heart attack, it inflates the numbers artificially, right? So
Right.
you get the scare factor of it, right? And then you get the it makes it easier for whatever reason to file it. Say, well, he was in it, he had a heart attack, but we don't know if he died from the heart attack or the operation or coronavirus.
Right.
So there's a liability issue here right off the bat, right? So if you go in for a heart attack and you right now and you die on the table, well, you died from coronavirus.
Yes.
Now nobody can sue this doctor, right? The doctor's safe. The hospital's safe. No one can get sued because it was coronavirus. We couldn't do anything about it.
Right.
So that's where I think this is going. And the reason why this is going, this is why you can't trust anybody to have your data tell you what you should and shouldn't be doing. It all goes into whoever the power that be is that's in control of it, whoever the winners or the victors in history, they write the history. They write the rule books, but little by little things start trickling out about, things like, what really happened. Columbus growing up when I have no problem with Christopher Columbus, but I mean, he came here and he slaughtered innocents.
Right.
Okay. But if you can see on both sides of the fence, it was terrible that he did what he did, but look where he's coming from. He's coming from European society, and I'm going to take what I'm better than you. I'm more powerful than you, and I can do what I want. I don't think it's right to kill people personally right there. But, this is the same thing with this virus. I have a problem with them hiding the information and the data because now they've just inflated the numbers on how many people are actually affected by this virus, right? And how many people are, and then from that information alone, look at all the numbers. We have to tag everybody and bag them. We have to do this. Otherwise, look, there's 1 million people that had it. No, there wasn't. And I'm not belittling this. This is a real virus. People are dying from this.
Yes.
Okay. But the numbers, if you really look at what numbers are, it's not in the same breath as people that committed suicide. 2.3 million people this year or something like that. It's nowhere near that. And by them artificially doing it, they're padding their reasons why they're going to take your rights away from you. And why this conversation we're having right here will be up for about 48 hours, whatever, until someone sees it and goes, oh, they're on to us, So this is the problem we have here. And this is why Thomas Jefferson and our founding fathers even said it. A little revolution is good every now and then. I thought initially when we, before this happened, someone asked me, we were talking, I think on Jim Mallard's show, Mallard Report, great show. Yes. And you can check it out. And we were doing the predictions, and I went back to the predictions because I think I predicted this global catastrophe which we're experiencing. And I said, this country, speaking of U.S., is so divided, and people are so entrenched on either side of this political spectrum. The politics of your constitutional rights versus this socialist Democrat, which I can't stand that term because they shouldn't be with each other.
Yes.
Right. Society that the only way out of this is either a civil war or some kind of act of God. And lo and behold, what have we just had?
Right.
An act of God. And even now, I still see people entrenched in their, stuff, pointing fingers. Well, he should have done a better job. Like, look, he's doing the best job he has. Everybody's in the same situation, no matter what country you're in.
Yeah.
It's not like we could put up an invisible, like put up the cones of silence and
Right.
this dome comes over, you know,
Right.
and it was bound to happen. We are so interconnected. We were going to get this whether we wanted it or not. And I think the person that, you know, is in charge, tried to put things in place to prevent people from coming here. And then he got crapped on by both his people as well as the other people, saying you can't do it. It's xenophobia.
Right.
Look, leaders make decisions that are not popular. You have to lead. If you want somebody who's popular and you whatever, go to the movies. Go
Right.
follow a basketball coach
Right.
or baseball coach. But when you're the leader, when you're the person that's out there and you've got a choice, I know there are terrorists in this town. There's 25,000 people in this town, and I'm looking at 3 terrorists that are planning a bomb right now to kill 1 million people in Chicago, let's say. I have to say, well, we could take them out right now and kill everybody and save 1 million people in Chicago by taking out 25,000, or we can try to go in there, but there's a good chance they're going to escape, and innocent people are going to get killed anyhow.
Right.
You have to make tough decisions.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, every president's had to make it. Every, you know, even these senators, you know, it's some of it's tough, but it's not going to be popular. You want kinder, gentler, nicer? Read a comic book or a fantasy novel, because real life doesn't work that way. Real life people have to be killed. We're not in a kumbaya society. We never will be. And
Right.
and there'll always be something, be it racism or sexism or something. But what you can do is be very proactive and try not to be that way anymore. Try to lead, show your children that, like, look, you know, be a little bit more considerate, just be polite. And one of the greatest things that happened from 9/11 was the 2 weeks thereafter, everybody was really nice to each other.
Right. Right.
No matter what you Indian, black, white, pink, blue, green, like, oh, we're Americans, we're good. Okay, I got you. That's what we need now. We need to keep that philosophy going. We need to say, look, we're good. Let's be nice to each other. Let's be polite. Step out of the way. No, you don't talk back. No, you don't spit on somebody. You know, if we can get this method down, there's no reason why we can't have a great, wonderful life from this point forward. We have opportunities here beyond belief.
I think, yeah, I think so. I've interviewed you know, a few people. One was Nick Schulander, who's an engineering student at Washington State, and he was saying, you know, just he kind of narrowed it down, and he said, think about battery life for anything that we have, whether it be a phone, a camera, whatever. He's like, the technology, the innovation with batteries, in 2 years, a battery might stay charged for 72 hours. It just would be
Right.
the norm. He's like, and just think of, and he just rambled, he's a, you know, mechanical engineer. He rambled
Right.
off like 5 things he said that would be better, that this is kind of propel us. Now that was from that standpoint, but yeah, I think, you know, you're right on with, if we can maintain societal, and I think one of the things that's going to interfere with that we have to somehow try to negotiate is, we've just identified people as non-essential. Like the person
Yep.
that cuts my hair, her shop was shut down, and you know, so the place that does, you know, services my lawnmower, you know, my hometown place, mom and pop, they're shut down.
Right.
Yet the paint place is open. So we've just kind of said, you know, you're important, your livelihood, what you do is important, and other people it's not. So that's become objective, and you know, probably more to state levels. You talk about federal, state, and then also counties getting even more restrictive on what they believe is essential or not.
Yep.
And if I'm being told, you know, Dave, what you do isn't essential, it's a slap in the face, right? It's like, well,
Yep.
no, it is essential. And like my hairstylist, for example, she could easily have taken measures and precautions, and they only have a couple people in there, like the lawn place. I mean,
Yeah.
at any time there's maybe 3-4 people in the showroom. They could have put in lines. They could have done these things to
Yep.
stay.
Knock on the door before coming in. Yeah.
So tell me how you see, and we can wrap this up. It's been great. How do you see then the bridging of this? I'm essential versus not essential, because honestly, I mean, some people I think are going to take this I'm essential. Like I know somebody who's kind of got a big head from this, like, you know, has papers from his employer to travel, and if he was pulled over, not that, but actually has these, and it says this essential employer has this role, has
yeah.
this, and he's kind of like puffed up, and
So
and I'm like, dude,
just bring it down a little. Yeah, just bring it down a little. So here's the thing: everybody's essential. Okay, whether you like it or not, your hairstylist is essential. My customers and clients are essential. Their parties that they're going to have is essential. Everything's essential. And if people in government and city, state, local, federal think that they're like, oh no, you're not essential, I got another thing coming to you, because people are now coming up and realizing that these individuals, their employer wishes, wants, is not essential. They're finally coming to terms with, you know what, it may not be the perfect life, but I can get by in a couple cans of peanut butter and jelly. My kids are fed,
Right.
they get their work. And, you know, no one's been buying anything for 2 months, you know, almost, or whatever. They buy some stuff from Amazon, but it's basically food and whatever. No one's going out buying a big, you know, 85-inch TV set.
Right.
So if I was a corporation right now, I'd be a little bit nervous. I'd be a lot nervous, because they treated the American person or the worker, I'm just going to talk an American standpoint, but these corporations have abused their power and privilege, really just treated people as cattle. And they're realizing, you know, they're going to realize now that, you know what, you're not going to treat me as cattle. No, my time with my family is important. My things that I want to do is why I work.
Agreed.
I don't work for you. So, and this is the government too. It's like, you know what, the hell with your taxes. People see, this is why you want the government wants control over people, because if people realize right off the bat that if we the people, the first line of the Constitution,
Right.
we the people, in order to, okay, if we stopped with all this stuff of our opinions on and our disagreements on everything, gun, abortion, gay, not gay, whatever it is, and we put that to the side for a few minutes and we came together, you'd see everybody in Washington crap their pants. You would see business crap their pants, because we can do whatever we want.
Right.
And I think it would be for the
Right.
better of us. And it's
Right.
not about taking care of everybody, but it's about like, no, we're not going to allow you to get insider trading and make money. No, you have to have the health care. Because frankly, if they had the health care, like the Obama bill, whatever it was, if they were able to have, and they were required to have it first, I'd be jumping on board in a heartbeat, because I know it'd be great. Right? They're not going to screw themselves,
Right.
you know, whatsoever. So I jump on board with it. See, this is the problem. We have been, they you know, they're distracting us with this and taking our wallet. They're distracting with that, they take your pocketbook. I think it's on both sides of the spectrum that people are waking up and saying, we don't need you.
Yeah.
We're screwed. We'll work locally. We'll trade off for, you know, I'll tutor your child. Give me a couple of eggs. And it's a new frontier. But one more thing is that we have an opportunity here to really, one of the plans I did is going back to that IMF thing.
Yeah,
is almost forgiving the debt. Right?
Right.
Here's the thing. I'm a capitalist. I love money. I love to make money. Okay. And as a corporate person, boards are there to make money for the corporation. If your iPhone is $1,500 right now, and you're telling me that I can buy an iPhone for $1,500, or I can have this money, pay my rent, give my kids shoes, and feed my children, guess what? I'm feeding my kids, paying my rent, whatever. I don't need your iPhone. And I've been saying this for a long, long time.
Right.
Corporations have to realize you're overpricing everybody out of this thing. You're biting the hand that feeds.
Right.
We have an opportunity to forgive a lot of debt, get everybody back to zero. And I think, if you're really, you know, people like, oh no, well, it teaches people bad manners about whatever. No, it's the kind of like that Great Depression mentality. We have to do something.
Yeah.
And Social Security was a very socialist thing, but it did help people out until they started spending the government.
Right.
But if we can forgive the debts here, and people can come out of this saying, listen, I lost 2 months worth of work, 3 months. But you know what? I don't have $80,000 in credit card debt.
Yeah.
You know what they're going to do? They're going to spend money. They're going to take their money and spend money. They're going to go on vacation. Right. They're going to invest. They're going to save, you know, and it's going to spur the economy where the people are like, wow, we need more people here to go and help these customers out. This could be the second revolution.
Model, Brian. It makes sense. And you know, one of my friends in the military also pointed out, you know, the U.S. I mean, who's going to mess with the U.S. if the U.S. was to lead this and say, kind of, globally, we're going to cross off the zeros and balance out the debt. I mean, no one's going to come and take on the biggest military in the world. This could be this Jubilee time. And so you talked about also. So let's. Yesterday, get this. Yesterday,
right.
So our dryer wasn't working, and I was about to call the service guy, and I'm thinking, I don't know if they even come out now with the
right.
But anyway, so I'm like, I'm just gonna give this a try. Like I'm gonna take this thing apart, and the timer's not setting, and I'm like, I used to be pretty good at this stuff, and then I just kind of would call the service guy, but so I take the whole unit, take the dryer apart, spend a day taking the pieces apart, putting in. And kind of do a couple of YouTube videos to try to figure out, like, if people
right.
dryer's like 10 years old. And I fix the thing. Like, actually, I disassemble it. I figure out I can visually, and then I go and I fix it, put it back together, and all of the stuff lights up. I'm like, holy Christ, I feel like Doc, setting to 1985 on the time machine at the flux capacitor, and it works.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my, but so, and another thing. So, my kids are home, we're doing virtual schooling. And
right.
every year, on average, there's about $12,000 per student that the government receives to
right.
pay for kids. And if we do the math on kids, I mean, a lot of this goes toward administrative, a lot of this also goes in the government. But one of the things too is, like, where I'm at, close by, school districts have been putting together referendums, $500 million for a high school, middle school complex with artificial turf, stands, jumbotrons, the whole shit. And it was passing, right? Because it was good times. But then taxpayers would get an extra $300 a month, like, on their tax bill to do this. But there was also this part right now of saying, let's knock that shit off. Like, if we're going to do education, let's not do the artificial turf and put this on everybody's back so they can't do other things to do these. And people in my neighborhood are talking, we kind of butt up against some land where we can do this, like adding gardens in the backyard and things like, and things where we become more self-sufficient on some of our stuff too, whether it be cooking or trying to repair some of the things. And I do see, like, a lot of positive,
right,
things that come from this, as we've hit, the concerns, the ability for government tracking, and then kind of things that would be out of our control of, someone, from a Department of Health contacting you and saying, Bryan, your DNA code matches this virus, which is anticipated to get to America next month. So we need you to, self-quarantine.
Right.
And if you don't, we're tracking your phone and it'll be shut off, and then you'll also have whatever. It's these type of things. But in Cajun, you talk about the hurricanes, right? And Katrina, big mess. Cajun Navy Relief, and I had Katie Pachon on a couple of my shows, and she works with Cajun Navy Relief. I mean, these are citizens, nonprofit, 501(c) or C3 or whatever the hell it is,
right?
That wanted to come in, and the government said, no, if you step in there, we're going to arrest you. And right now, I looked in the latest, or in the Stafford Act from President Trump, he allows drones to be used for public relief. Like, people now are taking drones. You don't see a lot of footage of this, but I know it's happening because I hear it from the
toilet paper drops,
toilet paper drops, food, other things that they
vitamins.
Can bring in. And this was all illegal, right? Because you couldn't do it with a commercial or recreational license. My neighbor's a drone guy, and he's like, Christ, I got to insure the thing every time I take it up. Like, there's this whole deal. So a lot of this stuff too is kind of being swept off the board of saying there's a lot of really cool things and things that we can do. The technology's there.
I think something that people are waking up to is, and I love the guy Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs.
Yes.
And he came out. There's like 2.5 or 25 million jobs out there that are blue collar working jobs. And the reason why they're not filled is because people have been promoting this whole college university mentality of everybody needs to go to college. Well, the problem with that is we don't have enough jobs for the people coming out of college, right? So maybe some people are sort of working up and saying, you know what, maybe college isn't the way it should be going right now. Why should I be taking on debt when there's no employment? Maybe they're going to wake up to that. That's not a necessity. And I mean that. I even thought about it. Had I gone into a civil servant type of thing, I don't know, sanitation, anything, I would have been retired already for a long time, you know, working and making buku bucks on the private sector, but I still would have had full pension.
Right.
So, you know, don't discredit the civil jobs. Don't discredit becoming a plumber or that type of stuff. I think another thing we're going to get out of this is people need to really do some soul searching, and you need to learn how to garden. You need to learn about old medicine from plants. You really need to start being proactive and stop ordering your Chinese food and actually learn how to cook food and grow it.
Yeah.
I've said it before. I'm not a big hunter. I don't hunt. I don't have weapons, but I've never had a desire to shoot an animal. I respect every hunter that has done it, because everybody I know doesn't. You know, some people do a trophy, but majority of it is for food, sustenance. But I said, and I posted this once, I really regret not hunting, because, I mean, I could watch a YouTube video, I guess, whatever, but it's not, you know, like, hey, anybody can kill something, but I don't know how to prepare the meat. I don't know how to clean the deer and make sure I don't cut this spot or that. You should learn how to do that. I think people should learn how to fire, clean, handle, and take care of firearms. And I think everybody in this country should be required to, within reason, not people taking, you know, certain medications that will that affect their thinking, like some of these antidepressants that have been a problem. But because then there's no excuse and there's no reason for these laws. People are well aware, if you're 18 or whatever, you have to qualify. Whether you use it or not, you have to qualify. And maybe it puts a little bit more less attention with the police. Maybe we don't need a police state at that point, because people are capable of protecting themselves. And I think people are finding out really quickly that they need to protect themselves right now. A lot of people have been buying, a lot of people that were anti-whatever are buying firearms. They're going through the roof. And so again, when you tell me I don't need 10 weapons, it's none of your business. Now that you're buying firearm, you'll understand this is why we have the Second Amendment. It's not the first. The first is say you can say and do and believe what you want. And the second is we back it up, and we back up every amendment that's around the second, because of the Second Amendment. You have a right to defend it. So we're finding out what's really crucial, what's really important, and what's not. And I hope we learn from this. I hope we're able to expand upon it. But like true Americans and the people that we are, you're going to have a percentage of people that don't do a damn thing. You're going to have a percentage of people that take this and run with it. And then you have the middle ground, which is kind of like, I don't know, you know. I think at one point, because we didn't have enough jobs in this country in manufacturing, I even suggested a living wage, that if you're, you know, every American should, you know, over the age of 21, or let's say, should be getting $65,000 a year.
Sure.
And whether you work or not, again, you take away benefits. So there's no more WIC, and there's no more whatever. Here's your money. You're going to have to buy your insurance with it. You're going to have to take care of whatever you didn't take care of with it. And if everybody had that, then what could possibly happen is maybe like those people that had a dream to open up a coffee shop, or, you know, I always wanted to open up like a little, you know, something. Maybe they say, you know what, well, I'm going to retire from my job. You still work, honey, but I'm going to take this money we're getting every month, and I'm going to be able to open up a coffee shop. And then what happens? You hire somebody to work in the coffee shop. So you just employed somebody, which is what you want with small businesses.
Right.
We need more of these small businesses. We need more innovation. So hopefully from this, we get the ability to allow people to run with this and allow us to be freed of all these constraints and say, you know what, there is hope in this future. We can rebuild this country. We're going to bring back manufacturing. I'm almost guaranteeing that at this point, but it's going to take a couple of years to get the factories up. So in the interim, we need to be able to say to people, here's some money. It's not going to be enough, actually, but, you know, we got to work out a number. And I think what'll happen is things will start balancing out. The economy will realize I can't keep charging $1,500 for an iPhone. Now it's $400.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm using the iPhone as an example.
I think, price restructuring, you know, I just went, like, you know, gas was like $1.10, you know, when I went out this morning. And so, yeah, I think we're going to see those things. Also universities,
not as expensive.
Not as expensive. You indicated that universities not as expensive. Well, let's do wrap up. How can people find out more about you, Bryan?
Oh, it's you can get. I'm on Facebook. If you go to Facebook, if you go to, if you want to email me questions at InsideTheGoblinUniverse.com. You can catch my show on Podbean. It's Inside the Goblin Universe. Also, Nobo Boomy, which stands for Nobody But Me.
Right.
We've got a couple of shows there, and I'm actually doing one with my daughter now. So, but that's where I'm pretty much any place you want to be social media wise.
This has been the Safety Doc Podcast with author, radio show host, and leading safety expert, Dr. David Perrodin. Remember to check back each week for the latest, best, and most bizarre practices in safety preparation and crisis response. You can find Dr. Perrodin on Twitter at SafetyPhD. And remember, the truth will keep you safe.